I love this psalm, Psalm 34, one of my favorites. And you know, I've always had, maybe I should say, difficulty preaching the Psalms, just because they are so beautiful. They're so powerful. They're so well said. And you just hope that you can do them justice. And I'm sure I'll fall short of that. It's so beautiful. It's so wonderful to see what the Lord has for us, His blessings for us. So we're going to talk this morning about seeking and finding God's blessings. And I want to begin by reading the first 3 verses. David writes, "I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. My soul will make its boast in the Lord. The humble will hear it and rejoice. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt His name together." And that's what I want us to do this morning. I want us to take in these words, and as you hear these words, to magnify, to worship, to glorify God. Isn't He worthy of all of our praise and all glory and honor? He's been so good to us. And this psalm was written by David at a time when he was really struggling. David was being chased by King Saul, who wanted to put him to death. He was on the run in the wilderness. And David ends up in the household of the king of Gath, the Philistine, his sworn enemy. And David, he's in grave danger, as you can imagine. The king, Abimelech, he's called here in the opening of the psalm. That's probably another name for him or a title. This was King Achish of Gath. And he says, "Isn't this David who they sing about him and say that he's killed his 10,000s? So you know he's in great danger." And you may remember the story in 1 Samuel 21 that David, in order to get out of this situation, he pretends to be an insane person. And he drools in his beard and he goes around scribbling on the walls. And the king says, "Why have you brought me this crazy person? Don't I have enough crazy people around me already?" And so because of this, David ends up escaping. And in 1 Samuel, it says there that he escapes to a cave. And I don't know this for sure, but I think that probably it's in that cave, as he's thinking about this narrow escape that he had, that he composes this psalm of praise to God. So it was written in a dark, trying time for David. And we go through our own trials and tribulations in this life, don't we? Some of you are going through them right now. And what I want us to see this morning is, in those difficult times, and really in any time, even when times are good for us, that we need to make the proper responses toward God in order to find His blessings. We need to seek God in order for Him to be able to help us. God is looking at us to make sure that we're making moves toward Him. We're responding to His word and to His promises. And so many times when we fall into troubles in life, we fail to do that. We make the wrong choices. And instead of seeking the Lord, maybe we're turning and seeking everything else out there for help. And we face these trials, and sometimes they just set us reeling. And we don't have any answers, and we don't know where to go, and we don't know what to do. It's because sometimes we're not turning to the Lord, to seek the Lord. If we would do that, we could find His blessings. And you see David as a wonderful example here of someone who sought the Lord with all of his heart and found the blessings of God. And so let us continue. Look at verse 4. I sought the Lord, and he answered me, and delivered me from all my fears. They looked to him and were radiant, and their faces will never be ashamed. This poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all of his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and rescues them. As I read this section, it seems to me that what we learn here is that if we will seek God, we will find his deliverance. Seek God and find his deliverance. And notice the structure here of this section in 4 through 7. Notice that David is saying, I sought the Lord in verse 4. Verse 5, they looked to him. Verse 6, this poor man cried. He cried out to God. And so we see a heart that is really reaching out to and seeking after God. And you see the corresponding blessings. There's deliverance from fear in verse 4. There's rescue. There's salvation. There's the protection of God for those who will seek him. In times of trouble, David sought after God. And for you and I, is there anything more important for us than to seek God with all of our hearts? Isn't that where everything begins for us? Seek the Lord with all of your heart. Is there anything more important that we could tell our children than this? Son, daughter, I want you to seek the Lord with all of your heart, because the blessings flow as we do that. They flow from God. He has promised that those who will seek him will find him. And we see the blessings here that God poured out upon David. Looking again at verse 4, there's this deliverance from fear. Isn't it true that sometimes the fear that we feel when we're going through troubles in life, that fear is sometimes worse than the actual trouble, isn't it? But you know what God can do? He can deliver us from our fears if we will seek him. And David says, he delivered me from all of my fears. Are you filled with fear today? Are you going through something that has you afraid? Then what do you need to do? What is the response that you need to make toward the Lord? Seek God. Seek his answers. Go to him, and he can help you to overcome these fears that you face. Notice the blessings continue, and in such a beautiful way. Look at verse 5. They looked to him. You see, they're seeking after God. They looked to him and were radiant. I love that. They were radiant. They were shining, these people who looked to God. Have you ever known someone in your life that even though they were going through a lot, you look at them and you just think, they are shining. They're radiant. You know, they're radiant with the joy of the Lord. You know, that's the kind of thing that we can have in our own lives. They looked to him and were radiant. I'm reminded of a couple weeks ago, we talked about 1 Peter chapter 1. And there in verse 8 or so, Peter says, though you have not seen him, you love him. And though you do not see him now, you believe in him. You continue to trust in God. And what is the result that we saw there in 1 Peter? A joy that is inexpressible, a joy that is full of glory. That reminds me of this right here, radiance. A joy that is full of glory. It's infused with the glory of heaven. Who is that joy for? It's for those who will seek the Lord. They looked to him and were radiant. Their faces will never be ashamed. See, they're vindicated. Their enemies are not going to overcome them. And then look at Verse 6 again, this poor man cried, and the Lord heard him and saved him out of all of his troubles. Now listen to verse 7. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and rescues them. What a promise. Those who fear God, the angel of the Lord encamps around you. You know how amazing that is? You think about what the angel of the Lord can do and has done. It was the angel of the Lord who in one night struck down 185,000 of the Assyrian army and delivered the people of God. And David realizes those who fear him, the angel of the Lord is encamped around them, protecting them. And so is there any problem we can't face if the angel of the Lord is encamped around us? What can we not face? What can we not overcome with God's help? See, but we need to make the right responses and turn to him and seek him and fear him. And then the blessings from God can flow into our lives. Seek God and find deliverance. As we move into verse 8, the message is fear God and find his provision. In other words, God will provide for us if we will fear him. Look at verse 8. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. How blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. Oh, fear the Lord, you his saints. For those who fear him, there is no want. The young lions do lack and suffer hunger, but they who seek the Lord shall not be in want of any good thing. Isn't that amazing? Those who fear the Lord, they have no want. I think we could talk about this in a physical kind of sense. Hasn't God promised us that he will give us what we need? That he will provide for us physically? He may not provide everything that we may like, that we may want, but will God provide our needs? Isn't that a promise that Jesus made to us? Look at the birds of the air. God takes care of the birds of the air. Won't he take care of you also? You of little faith, Jesus says. He will provide for us. I think we should note here that he will provide for us spiritually, that there will be no want. We'll have a contentment of heart, a spiritual contentment. What a blessing that is. Are you content in your life, in your heart? You know where that comes from? It's from fearing the Lord. And all through this section, he's talking about fearing God. Look at verse 9. For those who fear him, there is no want. He says again in verse 11, he's talking about the fear of God. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. But from this fear of the Lord, and we're talking about having an awe and a reverence, a respect for God, that leads then to God providing everything that we need. It leads to God giving us contentment and satisfaction in life, true satisfaction. But one of the things that God provides for us here, and this is, again, it's amazing. God provides for us a good life. A good life. Do you want to have a good life? Do you want to see good in the days that God has given you on this earth? Well, how can we find the good life? I like how the Net Bible reads here. It says, do you really want to live? Let's read this section. Look at verse 11. Come, you children, listen to me. I will teach you the fear of the Lord. Who is the man who desires life and loves length of days that he may see good? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Depart from evil and do good. Seek peace and pursue it. You want to have a good life? You want to live and have real life? You know, if I asked you, how would you define the good life? What would you say? What would be your answer? What is the good life? Everybody's looking for the good life, aren't they? And to a lot of people in the world, the good life is having a lot of money. The good life is maybe retiring early, or maybe it's having a life of fun and of parties, and maybe it's a life of laying in a hammock on the beach. And, you know, not all of these things are wrong, right? We can enjoy some of these things. Maybe it's having a really, really great career, you know, and if I could just have that, then I would really be living the good life, right? But where does the good life really come from? That's one of them. The blessings of God give us the good life. And how do we find those blessings of God? It's for those who fear Him. And that's what He's saying here in verse 11. You need to fear the Lord. And He says, come, I'll teach you the fear of the Lord. What does it mean to fear the Lord? It's to have that awe and respect and that honor for Him, for His power, for His holiness, for who He is. But it's then taking that mindset and saying, that's going to affect how I live my life. That's going to affect my behavior in this life. And so what does it look like to fear the Lord? Well, look at verse 13. What's it look like to fear the Lord? Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit. Those who fear the Lord will watch their tongue. And those who do so, they're watching their language because they fear the Lord. You know what they'll find? True life, good life. How many times have we been robbed of having a good life? And we've brought trouble and sorrow into our own lives by our own doing because of something that we said. Whether it's gossip or slandering someone. And we're just bringing this trouble into our own lives and into our own heart. What about fits of rage and of anger? When we get angry and we say something to somebody that really wounds them, and not only have you brought trouble and sorrow into their life, but you bring it into your own life. And God is saying to us, do you want to have a good life? Then fear me and watch how you speak. Watch your tongue. Guard your tongue from evil. And then He says, depart from evil and do good. You want to have a good life? Then every day we have to simply choose what is right and to deny what is wrong. It's really that simple. That's simply stated. Every day we have choices before us. Are we going to do what's right or are we going to do what's wrong? And if we fear God, we will choose what is right. We will strive for what is right. And God says, and I will give you a good life, a satisfying life, if you will fear me in this way. We have to choose to not be influenced by the darkness that is in this world, but rather to influence it. And God will bless us. And doing right will bring this beautiful peace into your life. So we need to make a commitment every day. I'm going to do what's morally right. I'm going to choose the right path. I'm going to turn away from what is wrong. And we'll be blessed by God with real, genuine life. And finally, he says in verse 14, seek peace and pursue it. Fear God enough that you would listen to His voice and seek peace with others. And you'll have a good life. You'll find real life. And again, how many times do we rob ourselves of this by not being gentle with others, by speaking harsh words to others? But if we would refuse to do that, if we would refuse, say, to keep a record of wrongs against those who have hurt us, and people say, and I've said it, but they really have hurt me. I know that, and God knows that. But we have to choose what is right. We have to choose to fear God, to love that person, to not keep a record of wrongs against them, to not harbor bitterness in our heart against them. When we fear God and we seek peace, God provides true life to us. And I just love this section because here you have God's instructions, how to be blessed, how to have a good life. And so if we fear God, we will find His provision in many beautiful, wonderful ways. And if we will live righteously, we will have God's attention directed towards us. I want you to just think about how amazing that is for a moment. If we will strive to live a righteous life, God's attention will be focused toward us. Let's read on, verse 15. The eyes of the Lord are toward the righteous, and His ears are open to their cry. The face of the Lord is against evildoers, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. The righteous cry, and the Lord hears, and delivers them out of all of their troubles. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted, and saves those who are crushed in spirit. The eyes of the Lord are toward the righteous. You and I have been made righteous through what Jesus has done. Isn't that right? We've been justified. We've been made righteous by the sacrifice of Jesus through His death and resurrection, through our faith in Jesus. God has given us His righteousness. But yes, we have been made righteous, but we also need to be pursuing righteousness and doing what is righteous. And God, as He sees us striving to be righteous people, He blesses us. He blesses us tremendously. Notice the promise here. The eyes of the Lord are toward the righteous. His ears are open to their cry. You know what God does for the righteous person? When you're going through these troubles, and maybe that's you today, you're going through these trials, think about how amazing it is that God says, I will turn my eyes toward you. I will look at you. It's not escaping my attention what you're going through in this life. And God says, if you will follow me in righteousness, I will open my ears to you, and I will hear your cries. It's just amazing to think that the God of the universe, who created everything, that He would turn His face and look at you. It's for those who are striving for righteousness, though. God sees. God knows what you're going through. He will turn His attention to you. His face will shine upon you. He will be near to you. Even when you're brokenhearted, God will be near. What an incentive to live a righteous life. Because I want God's attention on me. I want Him to look after me like a loving father, because that's what He is. And He watches. He watches with love and with care, and He listens if we will just stay with Him and strive for righteousness in our lives. God will never abandon His people. He's right there actively watching over us. Let's close with 19 and following. Many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. He keeps all his bones, not one of them is broken. Evil shall slay the wicked, and those who hate the righteous will be condemned. The Lord redeems the soul of His servants. and none of those who take refuge in him will be condemned. So you may wonder, are you saying to us that if we follow God and fear God and strive for righteousness, that we won't have any problems in life? Well, we know better than that, don't we? We will have problems in this life. We will have trials. And that's how he says it in verse 19. Many are the afflictions of the righteous. We're going to have afflictions in life. But listen to the rest of it. But the Lord delivers him out of them all. God will deliver us. We can be assured of that and confident about that. Well, someone may say, I've known some very righteous Christian people just, living for God, and yet maybe they got sick and maybe they even died. How can you say the Lord delivered them? Well, did the Lord deliver them? Absolutely. In the most wonderful way possible. He brought them home to be with him forever. They were delivered. And God will deliver us, although sometimes, as we've seen, we have to go through the trials and tribulations. We have to go through the heartache, but know that God is there with you. His eyes are upon you. His ears are open to your cry. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him. He will bless us with good life, even in spite of the trials that we face. And then I'm reminded in verse 22 of what God has done for us through his Son, Jesus. The Lord redeems the soul of his servants, and none of those who take refuge in him will be condemned. Isn't that true for you and I? We've taken refuge in Jesus. We've found rescue. We've found salvation in Jesus. And now what's true of us? As long as we continue with Jesus, walking with him, what's true of us? There's no condemnation for us. We'll never be condemned. We're protected by the power of God. But we've got to continue walking with God and making the right responses to God. And even when we fall short, we fail, we do sometimes, don't we? Well, we've got to get up and keep moving to the Lord and walking with him, and we'll find his blessings. They will abound in our lives. And so this morning, if you're struggling, I hope this has been encouraging to you to look to God. And if you're here this morning and you want to lay hold of these blessings of God, know that they're found in Jesus Christ. And we can help you to come into Jesus Christ, to have every spiritual blessing that God has given. If you want to know more about that, if you want to know more about being immersed into Jesus for the forgiveness of your sins, to receive his Spirit, to start your life with him, we would love to help you however we can. Let's stand together now and let's sing.